Welcome back to Alea Jacta Est, tutorial number 5. Today we're going to take a look at two things. One is basic troop movement, and two is the message box and how you can use the message box and what that's read messages and how to utilize it basically. Um, so I think a lot of you, especially if you don't have the game and you're wondering, what actually happens when you run a turn. So we're going to do that now, and we are going to select Caesar's command here. Okay, so there he is, Caesar. And by the way, if you click on, actually, I see, if you click on him here on the right, this is kind of a little bit of a bonus. It brings up the Caesar basically detailed element, and it tells you some information about him. One is the command rating, which we're going to talk about later, and also different abilities he has. So, for instance, he's a superior technician. He can move fast, and he's obviously, you can see by all his abilities, he's a very, very talented general. Some generals may have no abilities, for instance, so he has a lot there. He's an assaulter. Interesting. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use what we have learned in the previous tutorials. I'm going to bring up the strategic locations, okay, and I'll see that Rome is flashing or pulsating. And of course, if you know what happened, this is Caesar's up here. I mean, historically, he marched on Rome, and basically, what we know is, and this isn't, giving away the game because the game is set up to begin this way because this is sort of obvious information and it tells you in the opening screen we looked at, I think in the first tutorial, is that Rome is defenseless. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've highlighted Caesar, and to highlight him or select him, you can just click on his picture. That's one way. There are other ways to do it as well, which we'll look at later, but this is the kind of the most obvious and simple way. Now I'm going to press the left mouse button and drag him to the Roma region. Now you can see here it says Roma, so he's going from Bonania to Roma, and it tells the number of days that it's going to take him to get there, 10 days. He's on defensive posture, and just to defend, sort of a standard defense. Okay, so we're not really planning to attack anyone or needing to attack anyone because we know that the city is defenseless. Now we know that because we were told that in the initial turn. Okay. Now one note here is when you drag an army from one place to the other, it's going to do automatic pathing. So it's basically going to find the fastest routes to get there. And he's just falling down the roads along the coast, and then is cutting across the mountains here through this road. He's going to get there in 10 days. Okay, so we've done that. That's all we're going to do this turn. And then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to press this arrow, and then it says proceed to next turn. All right, and then it starts to calculate it. So now the AI is working, it's putting all of our orders in, this kind of thing. So now it's processing the 30 days, so each turn is 30 days. And you should have seen him basically moving down. Okay, and then we have 108 messages in the message box. Now, the first time I only had 2, so this is a lot more common. You have messages here. That might seem like a lot, but you sort of get used to just knowing what is important, and you can see kind of an overview of what's happening. Okay, so what did I just do? If you click on the message, so if I click on this, message 1, the soldiers of legionary cohorts have been successfully trained, it takes us to that location. This is just a brilliant way of you can see a message, and then you always click on it, and it'll take you to the location where it's happening. For instance, here our merchant fleets delivered some money. Okay, now I want you to highlight messages 16, 17, 18. So Caesar's command, he arrived in Rome at day 10. So the capture of Rome and Italia has done much to bolster the support for the war. So when you take an objective city, that's the type of message you can expect to get. Taking an objective city is a big deal, and because we did that, we earned more engagement points, and we're gonna talk about that later. But engagement points are kind of a way you can spend to do certain activities like propaganda or build a fleet or repair a fleet or something like that. And we'll take a look at that in another one. Another thing I want to highlight in the message is when a message is in red, you can click on it once and it'll take you to the location. If you click on it twice, it's going to bring up the message. So here we go, economic development progress in Gallia. And then, so what is this going to do for us? Loyalty has increased, production has increased, and local taxes have increased. Okay, so again, you click on, if something's red, you can click on it once. So if we click on Rome twice, then we'll see that the capital has been moved to Rome, and another capital has been moved to Dyrrhachium. Okay, and that would be the Pompeians. Fall of Rome. Yeah, so basically anything that has that's red, you can double click on it, and you always want to double click on the red things because they're generally very, very important. And you don't necessarily need to click on every single message, but you do want to kind of scroll through it and read it. It just really depends how detailed you want to get. You definitely don't want to miss anything that's important. So, you're going to want to read all of those. Let's click on the Pompey dilemma and see what it says. So Pompey, he says he can either go west to Hispania, or his legions, or go east and gather their support. Interesting. What is he going to do? We don't know. The final thing I want to show you in this tutorial is, again, kind of building upon the previous tutorials that we learned upon, is let's click on the owner of all regions. And now you will see that Caesar controls Italy. So by taking Rome, he's now basically all of Italy is now in his control. And again, that's kind of, well, it's just basically historically what happened. There was, well, if you know Roman history, the Romans actually didn't keep legions based in Rome or Italy, really, and that's one of the reasons why Pompey had to flee, because, well, he had nothing there to defend. If you go down to Sicilia, though, you'll see that is still controlled by Pompey. Okay, so one last thing I will show you in this tutorial is, again, building upon our previous tutorial. Let's click on the supply level overlay, and I'm going to kind of just zoom into Neapolis here, and I want to take a look at this. This says regional assets produced, victory points left and money right. So we're producing 1 victory point per turn, and then 30 money per turn. And one thing to look at is strategic cities are going to produce victory points, but non-strategic cities are not. So if we go to here, Metapontum, it's producing money, but no victory points. Same with Croton, but Tarentum, again, you can take a look. Oh, well, it's actually an objective city, and it's producing 2 victory points in relation to the 15 money. Okay, so we want to be able to use those overlays to kind of have a good understanding of what we've gained. So we've gained, obviously, all of Italy, but we gained strategic cities and objective cities in Italy as well, the Italia Peninsula, and that's going to give us more money and more victory points. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been another edition of Alea Jacta Est tutorial number 5. Yeah, I hope you liked seeing the first turn and Caesar taking Roma without a problem. All right, see you next time.